Radio Bypass, bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard. Discover new bands. Here's some old favorites on Radio Bypass.
Hey guys, today we are so excited to be having a return guest and one of our favorite guitar players, Mr. Doug Aldrich is here looking for some trouble. How you doing, Doug?
I got enough trouble. I'm not looking for more, Ralph. I'm doing good, man. Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, you too.
So last time you talked about this record just a bit because it wasn't out yet,
Yeah.
but Looking for Trouble was something that we touched on ever so slightly, and it has now been released. And dude, I'm in love with this record.
Well,
And when I saw the songs, I thought, all right, we got a lot of, killer tunes. And I'm so glad from my hometown, Chicago, Sweet Home Chicago was one of those.
yeah.
But, there's been so many versions of all these songs over the years. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, Dead Daisies, super talented band. But no matter how talented the band, can anybody really do anything different with these songs at this point? And then I
Yeah.
listened to the album and I was like, holy shit, you surely have. These versions are killer. I just love this album.
Thank you so much, Ralph. That's awesome. We just got lucky because it's, basically hang on one sec. I just got it.
No worries. Lost your audio, Doug. No audio. Audio's gone.
There we go.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're back. All right, no worries.
Let me answer it again. So we got lucky, man. We were in the studio. We went down to Muscle Shoals to be in a studio that would be a different place for us to write. Something would be inspiring. We wouldn't be in the same location thinking about other songs that we had done. We were in a fresh spot, and it was a really lucky chance to do that. We went down there with a session drummer, Sarah Tomek, and Marty Fredrickson, and we were working on the Light 'Em Up album, and we got ahead of the curve, and we got inspired by some things that were going on in the studio, and we just decided to go. We were listening to some blues music because we were right there down by the crossroads, and every day there was a tour that would come in the studio, and they're talking about all these stories with Aretha and Dwayne Allman and Wilson Pickett, and we just got inspired we started jamming on some stuff, and then we decided, hey, let's do it. Let's try doing this our own way. And we weren't planning a record. We were just having fun.
Right.
And we'd kind of mess with it. And Marty was egging us on, he was like going, hey, try it, try it like that other groove, or whatever. And might have been one of the first ones, I think, was Crossroads. And I had a slide thing, and I just started doing that. I was like, that's it, man. Now just do the 1-4-5 progression. And then we ended up adding a little reprise section to it musically. I mean, we just were doing it for us because we were like, we've heard, of course, everyone knows the Cream version. Everyone's heard Robert Johnson do his thing. We were just trying to do something that was our own, and then it was fun, and we'd get through something maybe in an hour, get a rough idea, and we'd cut it, and that was it. And then we'd move on to another song. Somebody would suggest, hey, what about Going Down? David was like, he loves those downstrokes, and okay, cool. So let's try that. What can we do? It just went on and on every day, and we'd get an arrangement, and we thought maybe we'd use this stuff for extras or maybe put out a little EP or whatever, but it just turned into its own thing. And yeah, thank you, man. We had a blast doing it. We put our touches on everything we could.
You really did. Going Down, when you were here last time, we did talk about, our mutual admiration for Jeff Beck. So, I knew you were into that. So when I saw that song, it was no surprise. But we didn't touch on Eric Clapton at all last time. Was he a big influence for you as well? Were you a big fan of his?
I am a big fan of his. I don't know if my playing does any justice to his influence, but he's definitely like, there's a certain vibrato that Eric does that's really cool. There's a few basic blues licks that I learned from Eric Clapton over the years, and but I'm a huge fan of Eric Clapton because he's such more than just a guitar player. He's just an amazing artist too, and his songwriting and everything he did with Cream and Derek and the Dominoes, all that stuff, plus his solo stuff. So I love what he's done, and he, he was equally as important as all those guys at that time that were. Those guys, Eric and Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page, and they were all influenced, and the Rolling Stones, they were all influenced by these guys, by Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson and Willie Dixon and the King, all the Kings. So we were influenced by the British guys growing up. So with this, when we were in the studio, we'd go back and listen to the original and go like, man, that was really cool. How can we blend the two, or what can we do to make it our own? And some of the stuff was subtle, we like Thrill Is Gone. I wanted to suggest that song because I really always loved the basic melody, and the chords, the major 7, minor 7 stuff. And then we decided, what can we do with it? And John or somebody said, why don't we treat it like how Zeppelin did T for One and Since I've Been Loving You, which is more of a 6/8 vibe. Mm-hmm. And so we tried it, and it ended up working really well. It was like kind of a little bit sadder type of thing, and we worked up a new section at the end that was just for a little tag-on piece, and we cut it. And it sounded cool, and it was like, okay, let's move on. Or at that night, we went home after that. We had played through it a couple hours or an hour. We cut it, and Marty goes, let's listen to it in the morning. We'll check it out. And we listened to it in the morning. He goes, if you guys want to go try it again, And I was like, now it's daylight. Now it's different. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can do it. That's got a vibe, that one. That take's got a vibe. And he's like, yeah, but you don't want to try. I'm like, I'll try it, but it ain't going to be the same. I don't want to think too much. I was in the moment with that. And my guitar's out of tune on the track a little bit in a couple spots, but it was just like, it had a vibe, and I could never play it again like that. Could have been better, could have been whatever, but it would have been different.
Right.
And he's like, nah, fuck it. Let's just keep it. Let's have it be first take. And then we took songs like Black Betty, and we really went deep on that and tried something totally different than Ram Jam or the Lead Belly, which was the original that John brought to us.
Right.
And kind of went for a little bit of a Texas groove. It's almost got a Stevie Wonder Superstition kind of vibe to it, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of funky, and it's just different, So for better or for worse, we just did it off the cuff and cut them live. That was it.
Well, you can feel the spontaneity and the energy just pours out of these tracks. And I wondered that if you guys did them pretty much just like, obviously you did it over multiple days, but I was even wondering if this was a one-off long jam, because it sounds so energetic and so just like I say, spontaneous. So it's interesting to me to hear you say, with The Thrill Is Gone, you didn't want to overthink it or anything, because I feel like maybe that's kind of what you guys did with this whole record, so you know what, we know the tunes, how are we going to make them a little bit different, gave that some thought, and then just ripped into it.
The thing is, Ralph, is that I wanted Thrill to Be Gone to be really special. And I thought, I was afraid to actually go there again, because I just didn't know if I just felt like I was going to fail. And I just, now that I've lived with that version, now I go, I know I could smoke that version. But at the time, I hadn't done any we weren't doing pre-production on this shit. We just were jamming it. And then once we got it together, John would sing he'd have the lyrics. He'd sing with us, and we once we captured it, we kind of moved on. And I was like, it's not a record, so I'm just going to leave it. But I definitely was afraid to open up a can of worms, because I was afraid like I would get a couple good sections, and then it would be like I'd have to ask Marty, can you piece it together and all this? And I was just like, nah, it's got a great vibe to it. So of course it'd be better if it was totally in tune, and certain licks I definitely could have nailed a little bit more, but it's real. That's
Exactly. I'm glad that you had that fear. I'm glad you didn't do that, because I think that's part of what makes this record so exciting to listen to, in my opinion. I love it. And like The Thrill Is Gone too. I mean, the original has such a rich tone to the guitar.
Mhm.
And you've got that, but you've also got a slightly different sound to the guitar as well. I
Yeah.
dig that. That's part of what makes it different. Some of that tone that I'm used to hearing is there, and then also, I don't know if it's distortion. I don't know what the right term is, but there's just a little bit of a different sound to it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely got more gain on a certain spots. It started off where I was playing that thing with the volume rolled back a little bit, and it was cleaner, a little closer to. And then keep in mind, we were just using little amps that they had at the studio, little amps. We didn't have any Marshalls or any of that stuff like what we've used in the past. It was just more of just a little great little.
Down.
Yeah, the studio was just, everything was old and just is awesome. And so that amp, if you turn the guitar down, it would clean up really nice. As you brought the volume up, it would start to break up. But it was also really nice the way it would break up. And I didn't mean to. Of course, I love how BB keeps it clean all the way through. That's his signature,
Right, for sure.
And but when we started talking about Page, I started thinking about like, we were talking about Page just from treatment of this classic song. I forget who actually wrote The Thrill Is Gone, but
I'm trying to remember myself.
the BB version is very clean, and I thought, okay, I'll start clean, but then maybe I'll tear into it a little bit in some spots. So that's what we did.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. And then Black Betty, you touched on already, and I love that version. And I was so glad that it didn't come across like the Ram Jam version. I was thrilled
Yeah, just
when I
because the
heard
Ram
your
Jam,
guys' take on it.
it's such a great take the way they did it, and I've heard other people cover it that same way, but it's the original one that's really got the magic to it, the original Ram Jam one. But
Right.
the Lead Belly version is just an a cappella vocal. So we stripped it down and like, let's start from scratch. Let's do something really different. And then, like songs like Walking the Dog, I really love how that turned out, because we were all fans of the Aerosmith version.
Of course.
And then later, then John brought the original version. And then we were like, we tapped into like a Bo Diddley type of thing to start off the song, and then we kind of reprised that in the song. This gonk 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 gonk, and that was our kind of starting point to that song, and that made it different. And then when it went to the 4-chord, John had this really slow down 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 down, and it was like, well, that's cool, that's different, because that Aerosmith version is so killer. It's like, we're just gonna end up fucking this song up, but we ended up turned out okay.
Oh, it turned out real well. And I had the same fear. And also, I'm Ready, because Aerosmith covered that as well.
Right.
And I like their version, but I was so thrilled when I heard the Dead Daisies version, because if you're familiar with the Aerosmith take on it,
Yeah.
they slowed it down and they kind of changed it just a little bit. And then yours is upbeat, it's moving, it's cranking.
Yeah.
So it was completely different versions, and equally great takes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what Aerosmith did either, of course.
No, of course
But
not. I love it.
I was so glad that it wasn't that. I was thrilled.
That's the thing is we love Aerosmith so much, and John's definitely got a big influence from Tyler, who doesn't, when as an American singer, but we don't want to be compared to them or anything. We want to pay respect to them by not trying to do something like how they would do it. And there's only really one Aerosmith anyway, so it wouldn't have come across as legit, So this way we can say, hey, we did our own thing, for better or for worse, and I'm just grateful that you like it. It really was done in a matter of days, and it wasn't like there's never been a recording where I would listen back to it and go, oh, I would do it the same way. Of course, I always think I could do it better or improve on it or whatever. But where do you stop? You got to put a finish line someplace. And
yeah, exactly.
This one didn't even have a finish line. It just had a starting line. And we just, as soon as we got the cars started on the track, we just went to the next song, and that was it.
I love it. And then I wanted to make sure we touched on Boom Boom, because again, that version just kills me how great it is, and it's got such a swing to it as well. So
it turned out really great because of John. John, the whole album, John just rules on it. His voice is set for that kind of music, and he really nailed it on all these songs. But Boom Boom, he made it into a really fun track with his vocal and the groove. Sarah and Michael Devin. And Michael Devin, sometimes I've been forgetting to give him props, but the bass playing on the album is superb. And then Michael also played all the harp on the album.
I was going to mention that because I actually wrote that down on Black Betty, but I know he played it on all the tunes where there's harmonica. And I did want to comment on that, I'm so used to, you got Robert Plant, you got Steven Tyler, the singers are usually the harp players. And then I saw that it was Michael that played on these tracks, and he did a great job.
Yeah, he did, man. He surely did. He's a very talented harp player. I mean, he did all those songs. He basically, we'd cut the song, and he put harp on everything. I don't know if I don't know if we used it on everything, but he did a track on everything. We bought the whole range of harmonicas. So
they have a vintage harp amp there, or harp mic at the studio.
Yeah, he had a bullet mic. Actually, at first he was using a 57. Then we got him a bullet mic because we hadn't planned on it. And so during the time when we started jamming, he said, I could do harp, and we ordered, and they FedExed the entire. So people understand, because probably, but like every song, whatever key it's in, that's a different harp.
Right.
So that's why you have those guys that have those vests that got 20 harps in them or whatever, because they want to have all these different harps. And so he got them, and he had to break them in real quick. They're, a harp, you got to break in. It's just like anything. You got to break it in.
Right.
But once it was done, he knocked that stuff out in just a matter of a day or something. He just kind of blew through everything. And literally. He wasn't even sure. Yeah, he wasn't even sure what was going to be, what they're going to use or whatever, because it wasn't really. It was all just thrown on, to get. But in the end, what they did with it, they used complete takes. It wasn't like they pieced stuff together. They might have used a piece here or there from another take, but he's a legit player.
Yeah, I would say so, because that was one of the things, and that's actually probably a good segue into. I wanted to touch on the documentary you guys made, and it's probably a good segue because I did not know who was playing the harmonica until I saw the documentary, and also I didn't realize that the Loving Mary drummer Sarah was playing on the record either until I saw the documentary. So that kind of surprised me. I'm like, oh man, I love the Loving Mary band.
Yeah, and she's just a badass. I mean, she's a master. I mean, she plays on a lot of sessions with Marty, and he's not a slop. He's not like Marty. He'll tell you, do it again. Nah, don't do it like that. Come on, do it again. If he's looking for something, and she's used to being under his thumb, and she just kicks ass. She knows how to play anything. So she would you know, Chicago blues, Texas blues. What do you want? You know, I got it. You know, so it was great, and she did a great job, and her drums sound killer on the album.
They do. Yeah, they do. But the documentary, let's talk about that for a minute before we move too far away from that, because the documentary, when you guys put it out, I watched it, the immediate thought I had in my head right away was that I love the way you guys did it, because again, it's kind of part documentary, kind of part Fame Studios history, and kind of part of the making of Looking for Trouble.
Yeah,
And I was really thrilled that you guys did it like that, because I happen to know all this stuff because growing up in Chicago, I didn't hear the blues firsthand either, even though I should have. I learned it through all the same guys that you talked about earlier, which then made me go research the origin of that music. But for people that may not know some of this historical stuff, I love that you guys covered some of that. And then, of course, Fame being what it is, it was cool that you covered some of the history of that studio as well, and then also showed us some of the making of the record. So anyway, I thought it was great that you kind of made it three distinct things within that documentary. Whose idea was that? Because it was perfect.
that was probably. I mean, we have a social media guy that's with us all the time. He's filming all the time, doing photos all the time. We kind of forget that he's there. He's just kind of in the woodwork, and so he was grabbing bits, and he and the management, I think, put together the documentary. And nobody, I didn't know what was going to be used for anything. There was a footage for everything that we were doing there, from writing songs to recording this stuff, and just to have it for ourselves, to one day have that footage for our kids to look at or whatever.
Right.
But they probably, they took a lot of footage, so they probably still have some to make another documentary later. But yeah, I watched it and I thought, well, this is really cool, because they kept it short and sweet.
Yeah.
It moves along and it delivers what they needed it to do. And it's something that, people can, it's a little extra so people can see what it was like actually in there.
Yeah, it was great. And you guys watching this now with Doug and I, if you haven't checked out the Looking for Trouble documentary, it's on their YouTube channel, the Dead Daisies YouTube channel. You got to watch it, because you may learn something. You may learn a thing or two that you thought you knew that maybe you didn't. Plus, it's just fun. It's 20 minutes of just a really well put together piece. You got to check it out. So, yeah, dude, I thought it was just so well done. Everything about this, I have to say, surprised me. It was not that I didn't expect it to be good, because I love you guys, as you know, but because of the content and because I've heard it so many different ways over the years.
Yeah.
Especially growing up in Chicago. My God, I think I've heard Sweet Home Chicago a thousand different times, from a thousand different artists over my lifetime. So I really didn't think there's anything new that could excite me about it. And then I hear your album. I'm like, what the hell? You surprised me. So
that one turned out fun. It was we tried to, it's a little bit of a heavier version of like a Stevie Ray Vaughan type of thing or something, but John really makes that happen, and he did a great job. I think there's a lot of great moments with the vocal where it's just off the cuff. At the end of Going Down, no, at the end of Black Betty, he does this really cool kind of Zeppelin thing. During Thrill Is Gone, there's this one thing I love. I think it's the third verse. He goes, "The thrill is gone, the thrill is gone away." Woo! And he does this high, and I'm like, oh, that's cool,
Yep.
It was just off the cuff. So there's
yeah.
some good moments, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I hope people get a chance to hear it. And we would love to come and play. We've been playing this stuff live.
Gotta go see that. Go get this, guys.
We've been playing like a couple songs off the record, mixing it up a little bit. We were doing Crossroads or I'm Ready. Now we're doing I'm Going Down. boom, boom. We're going to work up Black Betty, maybe simplify it a little bit, just make it a little more grungy rock
Uh-huh.
and just have some fun with it so it fits in the set. And yeah, so and we would love to come and do a blues night, maybe somehow a celebration of rock and blues. Do a U.S. run or something like that, or we're just trying to work out schedules at this point.
Right. Well, and that's a perfect segue because I did make myself a note because you just were in Europe last month. You're going back, but this time specifically the UK
Yep.
in August, starting off in Ireland on August 13th. And that was something I wrote down for myself to remember to ask you. So, since we're spending so much time there now, is there a chance of any US stuff in the fall, maybe?
There is a chance. They're looking at it. We just got to see what's going on with different people's schedules and stuff like that. Because there's always, David Lowy. Although this is his baby, he's got family business that he needs to do, and so he needs time allotment for that. And then we're all, we've got families, so it's like, hey, can we figure out if we're going to be off in September? Yeah, we're going to be off. Okay, cool. So then if something comes up, then somebody's already booked something else as far as a family thing or whatever. So, but
Sure.
we'll see. If not this year, we'll do it next year. And yeah, it would just be, it'd be fun to focus on this record
Yeah, it
as
deserves
a
to be
whole.
celebrated, man. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
cool.
let's hope it goes that way from our words to God's ears.
That's right. And then one last thing, since we know we can't make the guitar work during this video, but how's Ruby? Did you get to break it in more? Because when you were here last time, it had just been released, and you said your version you didn't even really get a chance to play with yet at that point in time. So have you had some time with it, and is it all broken in?
The Black Star Ruby amp,
Your Ruby, yep, your Ruby
yeah,
Red.
the amp, as you can see, is right here, and I've been using it in the studio and then using it live as well. It's superb. It's great. It's basically everything that I could need ever in an amp. It's got crazy, amazing, clean channels. A lot of boutique amps and stuff. They have a thing that they do, and it kind of covers. It's like they're really good at this. They're really good at that. This amp really has got an amazing, clean sound all the way through to a ultimate burn. If you're going heavy metal, it's got 6 different modes out of 3 channels. So I've been using it a little bit on the cleaner side live, and the only bad thing is that it's the more you turn it up, the louder it gets, the better it sounds. It starts barking, and these days everyone's using a lot of these modeling amp things, like, and they're really good, but they're quiet on stage, and that's why sound men like them. This amp is loud. It sounds great when you crank it up, and that's the only problem, is that front of house engineers tend to go like, "Hey, dude, can you just bring it down just a hair?" And it's like, actually, it will sound even better if I just crank it up just a hair.
Right.
And that's why guys like Joe Bonamassa, who's a tone king, that's why those guys a lot of times use plexiglass in front of their amps, because the amp, all these valve amps, they really don't really start talking until they get up to where you can get some feedback, and it's just natural tube gain. It's not like a preamp gain.
Right.
So anyway, I love it. If anybody gets a chance to check out any of the Black Star stuff, is really, really good.
Mhm.
Even like they got a 10-watt tube amp that is a little practice amp with a 12-inch speaker, I believe, or 10-inch, and it just rules. It's so simple. There's like 3 knobs on it, but it just sounds just legit,
That's
especially for
cool.
blues.
That's cool. All right. Good. Let me see if I missed anything from my quick notes that I made last night in preparation. I think we kind of covered it. I mean, I did make a note on here for myself because, again, I listened to the whole record all the way through again a couple of times yesterday. And I did say, I did write down, Doug, I come from Chicago where we know a thing or two about blues music. And I have to say, I applaud you guys for what you did with this album. 10 out of 10. And I stand by that.
That's very, very generous. You don't have to say that, but it is a fun album and it's a stamp in time. We really didn't, we did not try and polish anything. It wasn't meant to be an album and it turned into one because it just had a good vibe, and I'll never forget that time. We'll probably never, I never say never, but we might not have the opportunity to go down there again. And so it's really a moment in time of going down to Alabama and just getting deep in the swamp,
Right. Well, yeah, it had to be very special. I mean, it would be, probably like if you had the chance to go record at Abbey Road,
Yeah.
they just,
Abbey Road would be cool and I would love it. But I actually got to say that I would love to go back to Fame because it was just so quick. We were only there for 8 days or something. We accomplished so much. And I can only imagine being able to have 2 weeks there to work on a project would be killer.
yeah, I bet. But if this was done in 8 days or Light 'Em Up too, or Light 'Em Up
Well, the
was
writing for Light
recorded
'em
there
Up
too, right?
no, this it was just the writing for Light 'em Up was done there. Then
Okay.
as we started to get a head start, we basically were so inspired by the new digs that we got Light 'em Up together really quickly as far as the writing. Then we jumped into this stuff, and then we hit some more writing later, but we jumped into this stuff in the last days and knocked it out, and then we left, and then we went to Nashville to record Light 'em Up.
Okay. Okay. My mistake. Okay. Got it.
No, so yeah, we just did the writing for Light 'em Up there, and then we went to Nashville and spent a week recording Light 'em Up.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's kind of cool, in today's computer age with, a lot of people not even going into a studio to record stuff. For you guys to feel that inspiration from being in a studio. I mean, it takes you back to another time, kind of.
Man, it's really a blessing to be in this band, to be able to do that, to go together and play together, because it's expensive. I mean,
Sure.
it's like not everybody gets to do that. But it does make a difference when you're in the room playing with the drums and the bass and sing and playing to a scratch vocal. It inspires you to play a way that you would not do it if you're just sitting here looking at your computer.
Exactly.
If somebody sent me those drum tracks and I put the guitars on, it might sound more perfect, but it wouldn't have the same vibe.
Yes.
So I love the opportunity to go in that way and play together as a band should. And it makes you think about, like, the recordings of various artists when they're in the studio. A lot of bands made demos. They'd go in the studio and they'd make a demo and then they'd recut it again. And of course it was more polished, but it's cool to hear the demo.
For sure.
It was made, because it's got some mistakes. It's got some edginess. They didn't polish it up or anything. It's cool.
Yeah, and maybe the lyrics aren't even all worked out yet because I've had some demos like that where bands have released them years later, and
Yeah.
you hear the original vocal where it started or lyric where it started, and then what it became. I love that kind of stuff.
Well, Ralph, thank you so much for all your support and your kind words. We really appreciate it. I'll pass it on to the guys and definitely look forward to getting up to Chicago and seeing you.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, so I live in Sacramento now, but I actually am going to Sweet Home Chicago. Well, Milwaukee, Wisconsin first this week, and then Chicago. So I think we should probably play Sweet Home Chicago from this. But do you have another track that we should play off of this?
Why don't we go with Walking the Dog? I'm listening to that lately a lot. I like it.
Perfect.
Got that Bo Diddley part we came up with, and then it gets into the tune. But okay, so we'll get up to Sacramento, and then we'll meet you over in Chicago, down Chicago way.
Perfect. All right, everybody. We've been talking with Doug Aldrich. Doug, thank you so much for making some time for Radio Bypass. I greatly appreciate it. And check out the Looking for Trouble documentary on the Dead Daisies YouTube channel. If you haven't picked up a copy of the record yet, do that. I think there's vinyl too. I happen to
Yeah.
have CD version, but you can also get vinyl.
The vinyl sounds killer. It sounds really good.
You know, after I got this, I said to myself, and I actually looked at your website yesterday. I didn't place an order yet, but I think I'm going to because I'm so enthralled with this. So anyway, check this out. Dead Daisies kick ass. This record kicks ass. And now we're going to play some of the music to kick your ass with. And we'll go with Doug's pick first. We'll start out with Walking the Dog, and then we'll go into Sweet Home Chicago. Thanks again, Doug, for coming by.
Thanks, Ralph. Always a pleasure, man.